The drama started on February 4th. The Guardian reported CNN is facing a backlash from its own staff over editorial policies they say have led to a regurgitation of Israeli propaganda. They said broadcasts have been skewed by management edicts and a story approval process. This on top of the restrictions placed on their reporting already by the Israeli military, which we know from a candid admission from Fareed Zakaria.
I should note that journalists embedded with the IDF in Gaza operate under the observation of Israeli commanders in the field and are not permitted to move unaccompanied within the Gaza Strip. As a condition to enter Gaza under IDF escort, outlets have to submit all materials and footage to the Israeli military for review prior to publication.
In the words of one CNN staffer, ultimately, CNN's coverage of the Israel-Gaza war amounts to journalistic malpractice. The Guardian spoke with 6 CNN staffers and obtained more than a dozen internal memos and emails. They spoke of tight restrictions on quoting Hamas and reporting other Palestinian perspectives, while Israeli government statements are taken at face value. Troublingly, every story on the conflict must be cleared by the Jerusalem Bureau before broadcast or publication. In a shocking admission, one CNN staffer is quoted as saying, "Nearly every report, no matter how damning, relieves Israel of wrongdoing." In this viral interview with Rami Igra, a retired senior intelligence officer, Anderson Cooper watched him say,
"One little note, the non-combatant population in the Gaza Strip is really a non-existent term because all of the Gazans voted for the Hamas, and as we have seen on the 7th of October, most of the population in the Gaza Strip are Hamas."
Cooper did not challenge him on either point. By the time the interview aired on November 19th, more than 13,000 people had been killed in Gaza, most of them civilians. The CNN staffers also took issue with another anchor, Jake Tapper. In one segment, Tapper acknowledged the death and suffering of innocent Palestinians in Gaza, but appeared to defend the scale of the Israeli attack on Gaza.
What exactly did Hamas think the Israeli military would do?
What exactly did Hamas think the Israeli military would do in response to that, he said, referring to the attack on October 7th. The staffers were, of course, there for the 40 babies fiasco, which they had plenty to say about. First off, the report was broadcast unchallenged.
Babies and toddlers were found with their heads decapitated.
And CNN reporters even used the lurid tale to assert that there can never be peace with Hamas.
This kind of thing and the way that this has happened has really changed any possibility of a relationship, a peace accord between Israel and Gaza and Hamas.
I mean, how can you when you're dealing with people who would do such atrocities? We literally have video of these guys, of these militants, of these terrorists doing that, doing exactly what they say they're not doing to civilians and to children.
And they probably obviously have proof of this. There is video of so much of what happened and the terror that unfolded there.
Except, as a CNN journalist pointed out, the network did not have such video, and apparently, neither did anyone else. Indeed, even after the White House walked back Biden's embarrassing gaffe,
I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children,
saying that it was what they heard from Israel, obviously, CNN Vice President and Senior Editorial Director Tim Langmaid told the newsroom it could still report the Israeli government assertions. The Guardian also quotes CNN's own Clarissa Ward, who became the only foreign journalist to enter Gaza without an Israeli escort for only 2 hours. She said, "The response to our report on Gaza in Israeli media suggests an unspoken reason for denying access. When asked on air about our piece, one reporter from the Israeli Channel 13 replied, 'If indeed Western reporters begin to enter Gaza, this will for sure be a big headache for Israel and Israeli Hasbara.'" Simply put, CNN's policy that all news on Palestine be cleared by their Jerusalem bureau means Israel censors the news, as reported in The Intercept. Like all foreign news organizations operating in Israel, CNN's Jerusalem bureau is subject to the rules of the Israel Defense Forces censor, which dictates subjects that are off-limits for news organizations to cover, and censors articles it deems unfit or unsafe to print. In order to obtain a press pass in Israel, foreign reporters must sign a document agreeing to abide by the dictates of the censor. They're referring to a unit in the Israeli Defense Force Directorate of Military Intelligence called the Israeli Military Censor, headed by a chief censor. This unit censors thousands of articles a year. The Intercept also reveals more evidence of CNN's internal practices of censorship. Early in the war, on October 26th, CNN's News Standards and Practices Division sent an email to staff outlining how they should write about the war. Hamas controls the government in Gaza, and we should describe the Ministry of Health as Hamas-controlled whenever we are referring to casualty statistics or other claims related to the present conflict. If the underlying statistics have been derived from the Ministry of Health in Gaza, we should note that fact and that this part of the ministry is Hamas-controlled, even if the statistics are released by the West Bank part of the ministry or elsewhere. Mondoweiss praised The Guardian's reporting, but said it lacked one detail: why CNN has such bias. Indeed, starting at the top, Mondoweiss editor-in-chief Philip Weiss looks to the CEO of CNN's owner, none other than Warner Brothers Discovery. David Zaslav, the CEO of CNN's parent company, is a Zionist. The Guardian leaves out the angle because it is afraid that bringing up the Israel lobby will foster anti-Semitism. But I would argue that religious ideology is the most important factor at work. Weiss provides evidence, linking an interview with Zaslav in 2019 for the Israeli I-24 news station.
I love Israel.
Yeah.
I remember one Christmas with my whole family walking into the King David and remembering what happened to the King David and thinking about how lucky we are to have Israel and what it took and the strength of the Haganah and the Irgun and the heart of the Israeli people to fight for a free democracy.
Zaslav is praising a right-wing terrorist force, the Irgun, for blowing up a wing of the King David Hotel in 1946. The bombing killed 91 people, including many civilians. The Irgun also led terrorist operations against Palestinians. Those include the ethnic cleansing of Jaffa, in which Palestinians were forced to flee, and the massacre in the village of Deir Yassin. Additionally, Weiss names another towering figure at CNN, that of the network's newsroom chief, one Virginia Mosley, officially the executive editor.
Joining me now to talk about the war in Israel is the former U.S. ambassador to Israel, Tom Nides. We should disclose that he is married to CNN executive vice president Virginia Mosley. Thank you so much for coming on.
The Guardian article came just days after an interview on CNN with Mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, Abdullah Hammoud, conducted by another anchor on the program, Miss Dana Bash.
We here in Dearborn, the broader Arab American community, the Muslim American community, we know what it's like to live overseas, under siege, under apartheid, under occupation.
Yeah, and as you know, there are a lot of people who don't agree with the notion that there's apartheid or occupation. That's another conversation. But you know, the question...
I would just push back on that and say that international law recognizes the occupation. United Nations resolutions recognize the occupation, and the fact what's unfolding is apartheid. Every apartheid expert across the globe recognizes this crisis for what it is. Having somebody's political idea for what's unfolding versus reality is what the problem is here.
Okay, and there are a lot of people who disagree with some of those conclusions and the notion of occupation. There are a lot of people who say you can't occupy a land that you came from initially.
Bash is just showing that the ideologically justified and inspired beliefs do not stop at the newsroom chair, multiple other anchors, reporters, CEO of the parent company, etc. Indeed, it appears that apologia for Israel's crimes against humanity is deeply embedded in CNN's current apparatus. But CNN is only one news station. As William Youmans, media studies professor at George Washington University, has shown, the problem persists at ABC, CBS, Fox, and NBC. In examining the Sunday news programs for these networks from the period of October 8, 2023 to January 14, 2024, 51 shows, the overwhelming majority of guests, 100 out of 140, were American. Israelis made up the second most common nationality. Notably, only one Palestinian national, Hussam Zomlot, the head of the Palestinian mission to the United Kingdom, was a guest on any of these shows. He appeared on Face the Nation. From this guest booking pattern, 10 times as many Israeli guests as Palestinians, it is expected that pro-Israel views would be dominant, except that both Israeli and Palestinian interviewees were few compared to the prevalence of American guests. What really matters then is what these Americans were saying. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you want to see a bunch of uncensored and exclusive videos, and join my Discord server where we have video calls, weekly lectures, live stream, all kinds of things. Or if you just want to support me in the videos, that's fine too. Go to patreon.com/GDFofficial. Be sure to like and subscribe and everything. I have a lot more of this series coming. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. Love you all and take care.